how do you see agencies kind of needing to figure out or how the best out there thinking about the ROI on AI and automation?
I definitely think that the mindset has to be, as you mentioned, taking the tools and not having it as autopilot, but copilot. It's not the bots switching people immediately. It's how can it empower what we're doing today? So every recruiting agency, for example, needs sales, right? And if we're developing ROI for sales from automation, there's 3 things that every single go-to-market function needs. Who to reach out to, when to reach out to them, and what to say to them. And what I think is that Bullhorn Automation could take care of the who to reach out to by auto matching, using either search and match that one module or auto match another module that they have to take all the job descriptions you're looking for right now and match the right candidates to it based off of your candidates. Of course, you need updated data, but then it will actually match the roles. You need to know when to reach out. So you need to know what signal has typically worked for me in the past, right? For me to get this ROI, for them to actually respond, for engagement rate. And the last thing is what to say, and that's where it's autopilot. The best thing you can do is craft messaging that's personalized, that expressing your voice, just like in sales or in marketing. It's saying, who am I that's trying to, create this partnership with you? And I think that when you're orchestrating these 3 things in a way that you're using automation as a co-pilot, that's when you get the best ROI, and that's when you get the best engagement rates and people that are genuinely interested. What's interesting to see is that with those first 2, even though the first 2 I said are more techie, that's still a human based. It's still a human coming and saying, how do I define the criteria of a good match to a job description? And how do I describe what's a good signal? Because it's going to be different between agencies. So it's taking that human, let's say, experience and automating it, and then that's how you get the proper ROI.
Gabe, welcome to the Staffing Ring.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for your time. And let's dive straight in. So we're recording this just before Engage 2025, but let's rewind and think about the last 12 months since Engage Boston 2024. What's one shift that you've seen in the staffing since then?
To be honest, not enough. Not enough shifts. I haven't been seeing much. I mean, I think that people are kind of using a 2022 playbook in 2025. What I mean by that is they're trying what's been working for them in the past, but it's a complete different market. Forget about all of the tech that's available right now. The market itself is different, and I'm not seeing enough shifting. So I think that it's going to be very interesting to hear from the ground what people have been implementing, because it really seems like there's been a little bit of stagnation, and there's a lot of danger in that.
There's a lot that's going on, politically, economically, as you say, the market, technology. Do you think that's really a kind of sense of there's so much choice and so much kind of going on, agency leaders and owners aren't quite sure what direction or what horse to choose in terms of, the approach and the technology stack?
Yeah, I think that goes into it. I think that people have a fear of moving immediately because of, like you mentioned, let's say politically, you have national insurance in the UK, which is changing. You have tariffs in the US, which is impacting trade. So you have a lot of things that are in the immediate that people are saying, wait, maybe I'll just wait to see how it plays out. And then you have bigger picture issues like, wait a second, with AI and maybe jobs being replaced or condensed, maybe they're not going to need my services as much, so maybe I need to adapt to that. So I think that you're spot on. There's a lot of different factors, both in the short and long term, that are making people just kind of freeze, and it's a problem because we need to be adapting very fast, and we'll go into that throughout our conversation, how to adapt fast.
So what do you think kind of feels different about how agency leaders are thinking about this next 12 months ahead then?
I think that the feel is genuine fear. It's not kind of market jitters where people are saying, oh, what's going to happen in a month or 2 from now? Or when is it going to bounce back to what it once was? I think people are saying it might not ever get back to what it once was, and that's dangerous. And everything has always been changed. If we look at 20 years ago from now, where even recruitment was maybe who can build the best Boolean search, and now that's not the status today. I understand that there are always that market jitter, but I think that now it's genuine fear of maybe the workplace is changing completely. And that means that my agency, my staffing firm needs to look completely different. And that fear is what I've been feeling is kind of the difference between this market as opposed to past ones.
Yeah, so valid, particularly in the current environment. So how do those things kind of translate into what agency firms are getting wrong at the moment?
I think that what they're doing is they're assessing well what's not working or what their challenges are, but then they're focusing more on the short term than on the long term. And what I mean by that is that they're firefighting instead of engineering systems. And what I mean by that, again, is that when they're looking at a problem, they're saying, for example, I'm spending too much time CV formatting, or I'm not setting up tasks well, or I'm missing tasks. They're assessing well specific issues that they have. But instead of engineering a process surrounding all of these problems that they're experiencing, they're kind of hearing about a tool, buying it, and throwing it at the problem. Which, if you automate that, then if you automate, I would say maybe tools without processes is just chaos faster or chaos automated. So we need to be engineering these systems surrounding these issues that we're experiencing.
I think, yeah, there's definitely steps that agencies and software providers can miss, right? And that really, if you want to get to the profit and scale, but there's always 3 or 4 steps with the approach, process, automation. What do you think is one edge, perhaps, that staffing agencies can really focus on for 2025?
Oh, as you said with tools, there are a million tools out there, right? Everyone has access to it. Even I was just looking yesterday on LinkedIn, and you see a billion different sourcing tools, and everyone's telling you we're going to find you the best leads. So a lot of that is becoming commoditized. I think that your moat as an agency, what sets you apart, is your proprietary data. You as a staffing firm have years of conversations, history, logged calls, placements. All of these people that you've been in touch with in the past 5 years are all at different places today. And the question is, what are you doing with that history? Because that's a step up, that's a leg up on any other staffing firm. They don't have that history with them. They might have the same capabilities as you. They might have great talent that are really good at sourcing, but they don't have that history with the candidate. They don't have that history with the contact. What if that candidate that you placed 5 years ago has been promoted to a senior role and is hiring right now? What are we doing with that today? Your proprietary data, which is typically stored inside the ATS, that's your edge as an agency. And we see that is the people that are trying to stick out and trying to have a leg up on their competition in 2025 are saying, let me leverage that past history. Let me leverage my moat, and let me build a system surrounding it stemming from my ATS.
Often it is such an untapped kind of source of, business value and an asset for both candidates and clients. So yeah, I hear it again and again from agency owners. I've got 400,000 records in my database, but I don't know how to kind of optimize it, enrich it, and get the value.
Yeah,
Swi
obviously, it's something that I could talk about at Woo. So if anyone does have that
Indeed,
problem,
you know who to call.
exactly.
Absolutely. As we look forward to, Bullhorn, Engage, Boston 2025, I see, look at the agenda, Art Papas, the CEO is going to be talking about AI. Is agentic AI what every leader needs to know? There's automation. This is real. This is a real opportunity. There's also a lot of hype. So how do you kind of distill hype between kind of real impact?
It's a tough question because I think it's very personal to your specific business, your specific state. What I feel is that when I look at a tool, and this is the kind of the framework that I use, when I look at a tool, my initial gut reaction is, wow, that's super cool. Then I know it's hype. For example, I was looking at Gamma AI, if you've heard of them, the presentation builders. And I looked at it and I'm like, wow, I have to try this. This is so cool. And I wrote in a prompt and I built this spreadsheet and I said, wow, this is great. I have not used it since. And it's not because it's not a great tool, it's because it doesn't feed into what I deal with on the day to day. When is it real and not hype AI? Is when the first gut reaction is not, this is cool. It's, oh my God, that's completely going to change how I do X. Or, oh my God, that's going to completely change how I do Y. That's when you know that it's real. So I think that it's personal. It's everyone in their own, let's say, day-to-day tasks. But that's how you do that framework. When you're hearing about it, is this something that you feel like is going to solve something that you're doing today? Or is it something that sounds really nice and looks really cool on a demo, but I don't really see it, envision it solving something specific I'm doing right now?
Yeah, it's almost like you, people are still going to be involved in many of these parts of the business or agency, and having kind of that creative or shared ownership of actually building the process or building out the presentation. I think that there's still a long way to go before the bots will completely take over. But again, there's the tools there. Um, they do require investment of the approach, implementation, obviously the cost of the tools themselves. And a lot of AI turns into automation. So how do you see agencies kind of needing to figure out, or how the best out there thinking about the ROI on AI and automation?
I definitely think that the mindset has to be, as you mentioned, taking the tools and not having it as autopilot, but copilot. It's not the bots switching people immediately. It's how can it empower what we're doing today? So every recruiting agency, for example, needs sales, right? And if we're developing ROI for sales from automation, there's three things that every single go-to-market function needs: who to reach out to, when to reach out to them, and what to say to them. I'm going to add in a fourth: how to reach out to them. That's where I would just say, assume Ringover would come into play. And what I think is that with automation, let's talk about Bullhorn automation just because Bullhorn engages next week. Bullhorn automation could take care of the who to reach out to by auto matching, using either search and match that one module or auto match another module that they have, to take all the job descriptions you're looking for right now and match the right candidates to it based off of your candidates. Of course, you need updated data, but then it will actually match the roles. You need to know when to reach out. So you need to know what signal has typically worked for me in the past, right? For me to get this ROI, for them to actually respond, for engagement rate. So for example, one recruitment agency might tell me, oh, we always like hitting the iron when it's hot. When someone gets promoted, we're going to reach out to them right away because that's when they're entertaining new roles. Someone might say, oh, when people switch locations, I need to understand the signal of when to reach out to them. And the last thing is what to say. And that's where it's autopilot. That the best thing you can do is craft messaging that's personalized, that you as expressing your voice, just like in sales or in marketing, it's saying, who am I that's trying to, create this partnership with you? And I think that when you're orchestrating these three things in a way that you're using automation as a co-pilot, that's when you get the best ROI. And that's when you get the best engagement rates and people that are genuinely interested. What's interesting to see is that with those first two, even though the first two I said are more techie, the who and the when, that's still a human based. It's still a human coming and saying, how do I define the criteria of a good match to a job description? And how do I describe what's a good signal? Because it's going to be different between agencies. So it's taking that human, let's say, experience and automating it. And then that's how you get the proper ROI.
I love that. I love that. So align on who, auto match, when. So it says signals, what, the personal message, and of course how, tools like Ringover. And, that's an amazing framework. It's simple, but it also just ticks, those key boxes. Amazing. What would you, on the flip side, any technology that's really underrated within staffing?
So I'm going to talk more about, let's say, a general use case in staffing that isn't that could be leveraged by technology, which is being a recruiter as a content creator. I think that it's very there are a lot of niches that are still untouched, and people could niche down and have a presence on LinkedIn. On You were telling me before about YouTube Shorts. That's great. There's so many places where you could be in front of your prospects, in front of your candidates, that they are there, and there are so many ways to do it that you can stick out. For example, you can create beautiful videos that are super simple with commoditized tech like Canva, like Opus Clips. You could use copy from ChatGPT. All of this is either at a minimal cost or some of them with free trials. try it out, create content, be in front of them, because a lot of recruiting is just being there at the right time. And it's impossible to know when the right time is going to be. But if your face is out there and you're talking about a niche sector, you're talking about real world problems, you're talking about, let's say, if you're in recruiting tech, you're talking about how AI is affecting the workplace, then the second that they are looking, you can be sure that they're going to be reaching out to you because they see you day after day on their screen on LinkedIn, showing yourself as a market leader. So I think that what's being underutilized in tech is just positioning yourself as a content creator. And there's so many ways to do it today that could stick out and be visually pretty by just using the tech that's out there that's commoditized.
Yeah. For all the time that I spend on LinkedIn and probably most of the listeners here as well, there are very few recruiters doing that. So absolutely an opportunity. And I would add, just think about what value can you add? What insights do you have as a recruiter, as a staffing agency leader, perhaps, to really just give out there that you're seeing, because you're speaking to clients and candidates every day, what trends, what insights can you share?
By the way, it's a little bit of inception right now because I'm preaching to the choir. Look what you're doing. You're using Riverside right now, an amazing platform that makes it so easy for anyone that maybe hasn't been doing podcasts ever to now come and share your insights from the market that you're experiencing with people that you're hosting that are from the industry. It's incredible. So I think that you're the best example of how we could implement this.
Yeah, no, it's a great tool. Shout out to Riverside. Yeah, love the tool. Again, all the AI that really just helps and support the platform. Right, let's switch to looking forward to Boston Engage 2025, Bullhorn's signature annual event. Gabe, what are you most excited about for next week?
Surprisingly enough, I'm not really excited for anything specific on, let's say, the keynote speakers or from the vendors. I'm more excited for the people that are attending. I'm excited to speak to people like Shane Simpson and like Matt Banbury and people that, even I would add, let's say, James Veal. There are all these people that I'm seeing all day on LinkedIn and talking to also that are innovating. And they're the ones that are building that out the automation. They're the ones that are on the ground, right? It's easy for me to come from maybe a vendor perspective, but they're on the ground implementing the tools and getting the results. Even TechNet IT, they're making 85% of their placements from their database. That's incredible. How are they doing it? As much as I can talk to them on the phone and understand, when I get to see them in person at Engage and ask them, what have you been doing? How have you cracked the code? What processes are you doing? How are you getting your team to adopt your database? That's what I'm excited for at Engage.
85%. That's some success, isn't it? Where do you see a lot of agencies start, before they really kind of implement a proper process and a tool like Woo? Where are they at in terms of utilizing their internal database?
I would say a good benchmark is usually 10 to 15%, which
Wow.
is very low. Bullhorn has a few stats. They say that 60% of the placements you make are people that are already inside your database, but 70% of the time you're finding them externally. And we all know how expensive it could be to find these candidates externally, and you're just reacquiring them over and over and over again and wasting emails on them. So I would say that the benchmark, if people are usually on the very low end of ATS utilization, they realize that as a pain point, especially today where margins are razor thin. They say, where can I cut? They look at their biggest expense, which is usually external spend. And that's when they come and say, I want to get to those 60, 70, 80% of my database.
Yeah. So 85 is kicking the ball out of the park,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. And so, yeah, themes, at Engage, what are you seeing? What are you hearing about the buzz, the hot topics that will be kind of talked about around the floor?
Well, even it says we were going over the kind of topics before. I think AI will take a front and center stage. But to be honest, I'll tell you what I'm hoping to hear a lot about, and I'm going to be talking about myself a lot, which is kind of like the personal assistant. Maybe I watched the Google I/O event and I'm kind of hooked. But I think a lot of what they were talking about is exactly what we should be talking about at Engage, which is how do we treat tech as a personal assistant, where each person could train a model on what their day-to-day tasks are, what they want to accomplish, what could be automated for them specifically. And I hope that that's going to be a little bit of a topic that people are going to say, how can I use what's out there, whether it's native Bullhorn bolt-ons to Bullhorn from their ecosystem, vendors. How can I create a personal assistant that makes me more effective? Because going into kind of like the AI, and is it replacing or is it enhancing? I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of roles that are merging. Sales, marketing, and recruiting is going to be merged into some type of, hyper efficient one role. And we need to be sufficient in all of those. And that's what tools can help us become, as something that's very, I would call it maybe, a merged system. Now, I do want to say that it's not just about proper tech and what I could perform in the day-to-day task. I think that what we're seeing also from the Google I/O event is that even things like SEO are changing, right? So I'm sure the guys at SourceFlow are already on top of this. So I would talk to them if I will talk to them about this. But
Yeah.
even when we're talking about website building, Google's algorithm is changing, right? These are things we need to know about right now, because if someone is searching online, recruitment agencies in New Jersey that can help me with sales roles, what popped up before in the results is not going to be popping up today. So I think we need to be talking about how fast AI is changing, what I need to be changing as a result from that, and how can I adopt it fast, because I need to make sure that I'm popping up in the results and not going to page 10 on Google's new look.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Gabe, I want to be respectful of your time, and it's been a brilliant conversation. I think just my closing kind of question to you is, for attendees at Engage next week, whether they've been a few times or they're a first timer, I guess what kind of approach you've been there before, from a vendor side, but you've obviously met a lot of attendees. How do you think people can get the best out of the time they spent there?
Yeah, the people that could get the most out of it are the people that come as learners. It's not a place to showboat and to come and say, oh, I did this and I did that, and I'm on a down market of 20%, I'm doing that's not the point. The point is to learn, is to take notes, to come humble. The best thing you can do, even better than talking to vendors or listening to the keynote speeches, is to talk to your peers. Odds are there are at least a dozen that are experiencing the same challenges or have experienced the same challenges that you've experienced. And what they could offer is real life insight into how they personally solve the issue. And then what you can do as an agency is start running experiments. And you could start trialing tools. You could, by the way, it might not even be with tools. It might be with what you already have and you just aren't aware of it yet. So what I would advise everyone to get the most out of Bullhorn is come humble, take notes, take whatever notebooks are being given out, and understand what can you start implementing now to solve your challenges from your peers, the people that are going to be sitting next to you during those speeches.
Yeah, I think that's it's that engagement, which is the name of the game, name of the event, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I always say to people, like, have 2 or 3 key questions in your mind and just keep asking those over and over through the event, and just keep a note, keep a little survey of what's the range of responses or insights you get. And then, as you say, think about something you can take away back to the office and then try it at home. Well, Gabe, hey, thank you very much again. Look forward to seeing you next week in Boston.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
And for everybody listening, I'll drop into all show notes, Gabe, LinkedIn and the Woo details. And thanks again, and talk soon.
Thank you for having me. See you next week.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.